On today's Live Daily News, a stabbing in East San Angelo Friday afternoon, what happened during yesterday's shooting in Cristobal, and a local Mexican restaurant favorite is making a tough decision. Plus, the COVER1 tour across the Concho Valley continues as the crew stops in Eldorado. All this and more. I'm Yantis Green, and this is Live. But before we get to the news, tomorrow night, San Angelo is in for a special treat. The dynamic guitar duo backed by a full rock band, Del Castillo, performs at the SAPAC Murphy Performance Hall. Del Castillo performs a high-energy Latin rock show with two brothers who are classically trained guitarists from Austin. Brought to you by the Green Apple San Angelo Music Series and sponsored by us, you'll be amazed by the musicianship that brings a fusion of Van Halen with Norteño and even some old-school mariachi sounds into their music. Tickets are on sale online for only $30 at greenapplemusic.com. Tickets are going fast, so get yours today. We start the show today with news out of East San Angelo. This afternoon around 2:30, San Angelo police were dispatched to the 1300 block of Pulliam Street for the report of a stabbing. Scanner reports indicate that one person was stabbed with a pin, and our reporters on the scene confirmed that the individual was taken to the hospital. The stabbing occurred at a wrecking yard near Old Bobcat Stadium. No word yet on if anyone was arrested in the incident. However, police had someone detained during the investigation at the scene. We have reached out for an official statement from police. In other news, more details have been released on the shooting Thursday in Cristobal along the highway. We reported yesterday that a man was shot on US 277 in the bar ditch near Grumpy's Liquor Store. Witnesses claim that they noticed two adults walking down the highway going toward the Allsup's convenience store. While on the way to the store, the two could be heard arguing. At some point, one of the men pulled out a knife and the other pulled out a gun. The man with the knife was shot in the leg. The shooter immediately began to treat that person's wounds. No arrests have been made in the shooting as of this afternoon. The sheriff's office did say that the shooter was helping with that investigation. Also in crime news, we go to an incident that happened earlier this week. Thursday, a San Angelo man was arrested after allegedly stabbing another man with a claw-like homemade weapon. According to court documents, on July 18th, 38-year-old Dustin Don Dominguez was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. On that day, police were dispatched to the 300 block of Highland Boulevard. Dominguez is accused of picking a fight with another man whom he claimed had put a hit out on Dominguez's mother. During the fight, Dominguez stabbed and cut the victim with that claw-like weapon that Dominguez told police was a spike. Dominguez is currently in the Tom Green County Jail. His bond is set at $40,000. In business news, a longtime San Angelo Mexican food restaurant announced that it could be closing down for good. In a Facebook post Friday, Mendez Cafe told its customers that after months of struggling, they will likely close down next week. The restaurant that has been on South Chadbourn for over a decade says that they are asking for the community's support while the decision is being made. They will be open all weekend long, so go out to Mendez Cafe and support that local business. Speaking of the weekend, make sure you do something outside this weekend because it's going to feel great outside. It's going to be cooler. Still, we are under a current heat advisory until about 9 o'clock tonight. That advisory will come to an end. The highs on Saturday will likely not even break 100 degrees for the first time in several days, as the National Weather Service is predicting a high temperature of 98 to 99 degrees. Sunday, though, expected to warm back up to about where it was today, around 103 degrees. There is still no rain in the forecast. Of course, stay up to date on the weather in the Concho Valley by tuning in to the Live Daily News Show every weekday. And finally, the COVER1 tour across the Concho Valley continues today out in Eldorado as our crew of Matt Trammell, James Bellini, and Ryan Chadwick talk with the Eagles head coach, Chad Tutle. But before we get to that, check out this message from the Bass Bunch.
At Jim Bass Nissan, you have choices. And any way you go, you're going to save in a big way. You can choose from a new 2023 Nissan Armada SV or a new 2023 Nissan Titan Pro 4X Crew Cab and save $9,000 off MSRP. The choice is yours, but remember, the savings won't last long. Hurry into Jim Bass Nissan, corner of Houston Hart and Arden Road, or shop 24/7 at bassbunch.com.
And welcome back to the show. Of course, it is Friday, so we're going to continue our tour across the Concho Valley. Football is approaching quick and in a hurry, so we got to keep football on our minds. By doing that, we're interviewing coaches across everywhere. We've seen coaches from all around San Angelo, but now we're going to go to Schleicher County. Coach Chad Tutle for the Eldorado Eagles. Coach, what's going on?
Not much, just staying busy and counting down the days till July 31st.
It's coming fast and in a hurry, like I said. We're going to bring in the other two guys, of course, James Bellini, Ryan Chadwick. Been an interesting week here, but guys, we're getting closer to football.
Oh, yeah. Literally counting down the days at this point. We got, 2 weeks before 2 days?
Just about. Coach, let's go straight to you. How's summer been? What's summer workouts been looking like? And tell me a little bit about your off season.
Off season was great. We had a lot of kids. Our track numbers were huge. We had a lot of kids participating in baseball and tennis and, staying busy all throughout the spring. And, so having all the kids together, it takes a little bit of time. But, it was a great spring. Kids worked really hard, competed really well in everything that they did. And so the spring was very, very promising. Summer-wise, as busy as our kids are doing other things and working and everything else, we've still had good numbers and they've kind of gone up and down at different times, but it's been good, and it's good to see those faces throughout the summer.
All right, Coach. Don't really want to talk about last season. I want to talk about this new season. You got Omo Barajas coming back. You got Jason Corvarubius. You got Tony Kamiak. All these guys. Who's the leader? Who stepped up? Who's the guy who's leading the charge this summer?
I'll tell you, really out of that group, there's really a big name that you kind of didn't mention there as far as really kind of leading in this summer and in the spring and everything else, and that was Michael Adame. He's the only returner on our offensive line. He's been starting since he was a freshman on that offensive line. Throughout the spring and everything else, just on the baseball team and through this summer, he's really been a big leader as far as getting people up to the weight room and dragging his little brother along. He doesn't have to drag him hard. He's a pretty good worker too. But coming up to the weight room and being there every day and doing stuff like that, he's really a big one, and he's going to be really one of our big keys. Now, those other names you mentioned, those are big guys for us as far as what we're going to do in the fall and how well we do offensively and defensively. Jason's such a dynamic dude, out there on the field, running with football, catching the ball, throwing the ball if we need him to on something. Omar did a great job stepping in about halfway through the season last year and really kind of took to the quarterback role really, really well and allowed us to do some things that, we really hadn't done early in the season. We kind of adjusted a little bit late. And then Tony, I mean, what can you say about that kid defensively? That guy's the leader of the defense. We had a couple of kids graduate, and Tony is going to be, the mainstay on that defense. He's going to make sure everybody's set and doing what they're supposed to do. And, he's kind of a wild man out there. He's one of the nicest kids you'll ever meet. He's got a little brother and 3 sisters, but he's still one of the nicest guys you ever met. But out there on the field, he can be a wild man. So,
all right, Coach, and of course, are we gonna be sticking with Omar moving into this season? This year, is he gonna, like you said, he kind of took to the quarterback position after another offseason under his belt? Do you think that he's ready to lead the offense?
I think so. It's one of those. We'll have to see. I believe that's where he belongs, and I believe that's the best for what we're going to do and things like that. But if somebody steps up and shows up, then it's one of those things of, every position is open. All 22. People can say that, but it's one of those things. If somebody comes in and can take it from him, which would be really hard to do because he does a really good job. Then that is what it is. But I think Omar's going to do a really good job. I'm really looking forward to what he can do for us and for the Eagles in the fall.
Well, we talked to some coaches in the past while we've been going through this, and something I've kind of picked up is that's kind of how it is when you coach at a little school. You got to be ready to make your decisions fast in a hurry, and you got to be able to find your guys because these guys could be moving on pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things of the chemistry of the team and just how things work out, and kind of how the season goes kind of determines where a lot of these people play. At a small school, some people got to step into roles that they're not used to. We had to do that last year in some instances. That's just kind of the way it is. I mean, you don't have 400 people to choose from and stuff like that. We got 50 kids out there, and a bunch of them are babies and freshmen, and so we got to really choose from the other guys and figure out who belongs where.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You even got to play them young.
And when that move happened last year, is one of those deals of it was the best thing for the team. It wasn't necessarily like one kid over the other, because that's surely not the case. Those are two great young men, and when you get put in some other place, you can either mope about it or you can step up and do a good job, and that's what both those kids did. And I think that's kind of the kids we have down here in Eldorado.
Yeah, a couple of the coaches that we've had in here have said, you're just trying to get your 11 best out there. But all right, we talked about these big names. Who's somebody who might kind of sneak out there, might kind of take people by surprise? Who's somebody who doesn't get a whole lot of, people talking about him, but he's the guy that's caught you by surprise and has really stepped up and moved along?
We've got some younger kids that had to really step up last year kind of late, just due to some injuries and just moving some kids around. Eldorado Hernandez, he was the one who stepped in at outside linebacker when we had some injuries to a senior last year. He did a great job out there. He did some stuff for us in the backfield. He's a tough kid, and he's a hard-nosed football kid. He's not a big guy, but he's one of those. He is extremely tough. And some of those offensive line kids that had to step up and step in when we had injuries and some other things. We kind of had a little rotation with just kids, O-line getting kind of a little beat up here and there, and like Cade Parker, Jason Santiano, some of those. Zaid Hernandez, those are all O-line guys that kind of stepped in late and kind of filled some spots for us. And those are some people that I really think everybody needs to look out for.
Ethan Elias is one of those kids that made our all COVER1 team, and as I was looking through the stats, I noticed he was like the big play guy. He had like 27 yards a catch or something last year, and I just thought that was pretty, outstanding from a
Ethan's
for a small
he's
school
a
like
big
Eldorado.
kid. He's a big mobile kid, and he can go up and get it. He's not gonna, he's a lot faster than I think people give him credit for. But that is he's a 50-50 ball kind of kid that I believe is better than 50-50. You put it up there to him, he goes and gets it, and he is hard to bring down because he is a big kid. And last year, once we kind of found and got him in the groove a little bit, he was dangerous, and people really watched out for him and game planned for him a little bit. But he also does the other things. He blocked on the outside well, us running the ball as much as we do. He did a great job of blocking on the edge and stuff like that. And with him being a big guy, that's something that he's got to do well. And he did. There'd be plays where he'd break it. He helped the play break for 8-9 more yards just because he's out there hustling and doing a good job on the edge.
All right, Coach, let's talk about the football schedule for a little bit. Had a middling district record last year, still snuck into the playoffs. Excellent job, being in year one. But now moving into year two now, like what is it going to take for Eldorado to take that next step so you're not put up against an Albany in the first round?
Just better execution. That's one of the things of bringing in some new things and stuff like that. Our execution at times was a little sloppy, and that's our fault as coaches. Not doing a good enough job of getting the kids ready in that instance. We'll take that. That's our job, and that's what we're supposed to do. And so, if we execute better than what we did, then, some things might have happened a little bit differently. But, the name of the game is execution. And so, as good as our district is or was last year and is still going to be this year, it's one of those things of we've got to execute, and Wink and McCamey, they're still going to be Wink and McCamey what they have been. Sterling City really wasn't a surprise to, I think, many of us. Most of us kind of knew what kind of kids they had as far as, they're winners. They've won a lot of ball games over the last however long they've been in 6-man, and they've done a great job of that. And so just because we, put 11 on the field instead of 6, we all kind of knew they're still winners and they knew how to play football, and they figured it out and did a great job. And so, the district's still going to be tough, and our Ann's returning a lot of kids. Water Valley returning a lot of kids. So it's one of those deals. Our district's going to be tough, and you've got to show up every week and make sure you take care of business.
And I'll kind of piggyback off that a little bit. You did have to face the state champions in week 1 of the playoffs. What was something that I guess you may have took away from that game or was able to use to motivate your players during this offseason?
I think it's one of those things that you get to see the best, and you got to see the best first round, and you got to see what it takes, and you got to see the level of competition that is different than what you see week in and week out, even when you're seeing good teams. We see really good ball clubs throughout the season, in our district and in pre-district. But, when you see people that got rings on their fingers now, week 1 of the playoffs, not only does it make that tough, but it also kind of gives you an idea of what you're striving for and what you're looking at. And, those kids see those other kids throughout the school year, and they see the things that they do and talk to them, and a lot of them are friends with them, on Snapchat and all that other stuff. But they know what those kids go through, and they can see how those kids work, and hopefully they kind of, take a little bit from that and, kind of set those goals for themselves.
I'm glad we kind of brought up district ball. Where do you see your finishes? I mean, obviously, I think there's blood in the water, and I think Wink graduated. Obviously, they're a big-time quarterback and big-time receiver. Water Valley, or not Water Valley, Sterling City graduated. That big fullback who was just, I've never seen a kid run as angry as that kid. Where do you think you're going to finish this year? And also, is there maybe like a game you have circled that you want to kick things off?
Honestly, I think we can finish anywhere in the district. And kind of like I said a while ago with execution, we've got good enough and talented enough players and kids that play hard enough that if we execute and we do a good job as coaches and players of executing, then we can finish anywhere in that district. We can finish anywhere from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. It's one of those of it's going to come down to us and what our kids choose to do. And I really that's something those kids are going to have to believe, and that's something we believe as a coaching staff, that we can finish anywhere in that pile, but we've got to execute week to week and make sure it happens.
Hey, Coach, we were talking about it a little bit before the interview actually started, but let's just talk about your off-season program for a little bit. What kind of things are y'all doing to prepare for the season, and how many guys are showing up? Can you see definite progress as we're moving into 2023?
I can, and it's one of those things of we had to. One of the big things that we're having to replace is our offensive line. We've got Mikey back, but the other 4 that started the majority of the games are graduating. We had those young kids come in and kind of fill into some places, and so with us running the ball quite a bit, the weight room is huge, and the weight room is going to be huge no matter what you do. But, so throughout the spring and stuff like that, you see a lot of gains with those kids, and the kids coming in the summer, you see a lot of gains and getting stronger and more explosive. And, we spent a lot of time in the weight room, and we had a good chunk of kids run track and actually compete in track. And then the kids that happened to not be were in baseball, but they were also doing the stuff in the period that the track kids were, and, getting faster and getting quicker and doing all that kind of stuff. And, so to me, off season, did its job. It's one of those of, I think our kids are going to be strong. I think they're going to be explosive, and that's what it takes to be good on a football field.
Yep, bigger, faster, stronger. All right, so Coach here at COVER1, we always end with a final question. So we'll each ask one, and then we'll give you just an open mic just to get everybody excited. I'll start with mine. Last year you guys were big on our very first week, and I think this is another one that's going to be week 1. In the studio during the games, Chadwick bounces off to the football games, but me and James, we sit in here and debate it up. And, of course, James is none other than a Christoval Cougar. So I'm just going to ask that. What does that rivalry mean, just the Cougars versus Eldorado? It's the Battle of 277. It's a big deal. Even though y'all aren't in the same district anymore, why is it still a big deal, I guess?
I think a lot of it is just because of the familiarity between the kids. We're 20 miles apart, and those kids know each other really, really well. And they've known each other really well since they were all little. Playing Little League against each other, playing, Pee-wee football, little dribblers, those kind of things, and competing against each other in everything from basketball to football to baseball, track, golf, tennis, and your UIL stuff with academics. They see each other all the time. And so they compete against each other, and you want to be, it's just like your buddies. I mean, you want to beat your buddies. And it's one of those things, even if they're not your buddy, it's somebody close. And, just the rivalry between the towns, it's just bragging rights. And it's one of those things of, it's been competitive, and, it was such a good ball game last year. We got to come out on top on it, but it was one of those things, if it's going to be another battle, it's going to come out and be, a great way to start the year and make sure everybody's focused going into the season. Because if we're not focused game one, then, against a rival and somebody that's pretty stinking good, then, we're going to be in trouble early. So.
Yeah, do you think you're going to always continue that, even if they don't put you on the same district this next upcoming year?
And he and I have talked about it. Coach Otham and I, we've talked about it a little bit, and we're for sure playing, no matter what, as far as whether we're in the same district or not, and those kind of things, depending on D1, D2, and that kind of stuff. But, we're going to continue to play, whether it stays week one or not. I think depends on kind of what other games we can find and stuff like that. He and I have talked about it, going back and forth, what we need to do and that kind of stuff. But it's something that'll continue to happen, with Cristobal.
Well, don't worry. I'll always be picking you guys just to count James over there. All right, James, your turn.
I remember I heard it when I came out there for just to talk to you last season. I heard it from your defensive guy. Oh, Bellini always picks Cristobal. Like we were good friends. Hey, but I appreciate that y'all watch the shows and everything. That means a lot to us up here. You've been there, and you actually made it a point to hold on to your staff. Last season when you came in, just as you being the only new face. What have you learned as far as being in that community? What has the teaching or coaching at Eldorado taught you about yourself? And what has that community meant to you?
Oh, man, it's a great community. I'll tell you this. It's one thing of, they support their kids, and they support their school, and they support us. And, they back us up, and they take care of us. And so that's one of the greatest things you can have with the community, is just taking care of your kids and taking care of us and taking care of the school, really. I mean, it's not just athletics. I mean, these parents in this community really love and cherish and take care of all these Eldorado Eagles and Lady Eagles, because that's their pride and joy, and that's their kids, and that kind of represents their town, and it's a point of pride, with everything we do, from academics to athletics and all that kind of stuff. And so the community itself, as far as that goes, has been really, really awesome, and that means a lot to me and my family, as far as being able to take care of them. They've taken my kids in, and they love them and root for them whenever my kids are doing things as well. They're pretty little, but you got lots of people and kids and community members that'll root for them and give them high fives when they're doing stuff too.
Chadwick.
Yeah, and Coach, let's just go ahead and end with one that just lets everyone out there get to know you a little bit better. You've been a coach for a while now. Who do you emulate your coaching style after? Like, where did you learn how to coach, and who did you decide to?
The long story short, kind of the way I do things is probably a culmination of a lot of really, really good men. I'm a coach's kid, so my dad, Gene Tutle, he coached for 34 years in high school and big schools, little schools. He did it all. He was an AD for a time. He was a medical coordinator on both sides of the balls and all that kind of stuff. And so, I feel like the way I treat kids and the way that I love kids and make sure that kids know I care about them probably comes from him more than anything. My style, I really don't know. I think it's a culmination of a lot of different people. I've worked for some really good men over the years and worked with really, really good men too. And so I think you just pick and choose, what kind of fits your personality and what you like. And you take from those good men that have been successful and kids love and kids invite to weddings and graduations and all that kind of stuff. I think you take it from there. And so, that it's a big handful of men that were my coaches or that I've worked with over the years.
All right, Coach, then I'll give you the final thought here. Just tell the viewers watching why they should be excited for Eldorado football this year, and just get them pumped up, ready to go.
Man, we've got great kids in Eldorado, and you got kids that are going to go to the wall for you, and they're going to play their tails off. And, you can't ask any more from kids. The biggest thing you can ask from a kid is to give you everything that they have, and not just football, but everything we have here in Eldorado. Our kids step up, and they do a great job.
All right, there it is, the man, the myth, the legend, Chad Tutle, head coach of the Eldorado Eagles down there in Schleicher County. Coach, we really appreciate you coming on the show.
Appreciate y'all having me.
All right, thanks.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Thank you.
Our job is about so much more than cleaning floors. It's about personal investment.
Sometimes it's just taking the time to listen and show you care. When you make the effort to connect, you realize we're all on the same team.
Even the smallest of efforts can make a big impact.
At Carpet Tech, serving is always personal.
And that's it for news, weather, and sports on this Friday. Be sure and join us again on Monday as the live news will continue Monday afternoon. For the crew here at San Angelo Live, I'm Yantis Green.